So welcome back again in this lecture. In the last lecture, we have already derived this polarite equation in the case of Zokralitsky crystal growth. So in the today's lecture, we are going to see once we have grown the single crystal of silicon, then how we can get the wafers from the crystals. So let's begin the discussion. So basically, we have already seen how to grow the single silicon crystal. Then, after obtaining the single silicon crystal, our next task is to convert this particular crystal ingot into the wafers form so that the ICs can be fabricated, different devices can be fabricated on the wafers. Fine. So to do that, there are several steps that we have to go through, that we have to look at what are the different steps. So basically what we have done so far, we have already seen how to obtain this particular single crystal ingots. Okay. So this we have already got, and I have already explained that there will be a several diameter of our crystal that can be grown. Fine. So we have already seen that. So nowadays we growing like from 200 to 400 is typically we are able to grow. And from here we need to cut the wafers. Okay. And this wafers will be like at the final form, it will be called as the mirror finished wafers. Fine. So we have to see how this will be converted from here to here. That we have to see. So basically, before going into the details, one thing that we need to remember that this silicon is actually a very hard material. Okay, so it is hard and it is fairly brittle material. So from converting from here to here, what are the different steps that we have to look at? So we have to look at one by one. So I will be first telling you what are the different steps that we need to perform. So the very first operation is the shaping operation. Okay. So first we need to do the shaping. I will be explaining in detail what is the need of shaping and how it can be done. So first shaping, then followed by the sewing process. Then we have to follow the mechanical lapping. Then we have to follow the round aging. Then again we have to perform chemical aging, and then we have to do the chemical mechanical polishing. And after this chemical mechanical polishing, we will be able to get this mirror finished wafers. Okay, which is in this picture it is shown. Okay, so this will be our wafers in the final form. So as I said that this particular silicon material is very hard and brittle. Okay, so we first understood we need to have a certain cutting tools that will be able to cut this particular material. Okay, so for that purpose we generally using the industrial grade diamonds. Okay, industrial diamonds we use. Okay, and the other materials that can also be used for the cutting or some other purposes like grinding, you can also use the silicon carbide or aluminum oxide. So these are the other materials. Okay, so these materials can only be used for the shaping, sewing, okay, these processes. Okay, mechanical lapping. Fine. So that you have to remember. So now we have to look at what is this shaping process. Okay, what is we mean to say shaping and why it is needed. So first of all, when we starting this particular topic shaping, one thing that we have to remember that when we grow the silicon crystal, okay, so this is the picture, okay, of the single silicon ingot. So while growing the single silicon ingot, uh, one thing we need to remember is while manufacturing, we are not able to grow the uniform diameter. Okay, we are not able to grow the uniform diameter. Okay, so what we can say that the diameter, if we means we go from the top to bottom. Okay, if we go from top to bottom, the diameter will not be uniform and it will be a little bit variation you will find. Okay, so we cannot make uniform diameter of the ingot. So this is one of the reason why we are going for the shaping process. Okay. So that what is the first need? The first need is we have to make the diameter of this particular ingot uniform. Okay. So first we need to do the uniform. We have to get the uniform diameter. So we have to do the grinding process. Okay. We need to do a shaping process, or you can say we have to perform the grinding operation by having a diamond wheel cutter. Okay. And then we have to make it uniform. So once we will get the uniform diameter of this particular ingot, then we have to need to make a certain flat regions, okay, which is shown here in the picture. Okay, we need to make certain flat regions along the length of our ingot. Okay, along the length of the ingot. So this type of flat region we have to make. You can see in this picture also. Okay, you can see that we are having a flat region on the top and again a flat region at this side. Okay, so we need to make this particular flat region. So what is the necessity of this particular flat region, that I will be explaining in the next slide. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to make it uniform diameter, and after that we need to make this flat regions. Okay, we have to make one or two flat regions. Fine. So that we have to do. So basically what we are saying is, we are saying that generally we do not means having the uniform diameter of the crystal, so that we need to do the uniform, we have to get the uniform diameter by shaping process. Okay. One more important point that we have to remember is, see, whenever we are making a wafer, okay, so while making a wafer, there must be a certain specifications. Fine, certain specifications will be there. So that specifications, like you must be able to understand that when we are cutting the wafers would have a particular thickness, right? As per the requirement. Okay. So normally I already explained in the previous lectures that normally the range of wafers thickness is somewhere around 500 micrometer to somewhere around 750 micrometers, or maybe more than that. Okay, so that we actually require, that is the thickness of the wafers. Similarly, we need a certain diameter of our wafers. Okay, certain diameter we need. So when we need a certain diameter, then whenever we grow the crystal, okay, whenever we grow the crystal, we have to keep in mind what should be the final diameter, and what should be the final diameter and what should be the thickness of the wafer. Okay, thickness will be decided by the swaying process. That is not decided by the diameter of the crystal itself. It will be depending on the swaying process, which is followed by the next process after the shaping will be a swaying process. Okay, so that we have to keep in mind. So first of all, what we are saying, because we are grinding it. Okay, first we are grinding it to make it a uniform diameter. Okay, so we always grow the diameter of the crystal should be oversized. Okay, that we have to take care. So we always growing the oversized diameter of our crystal. Okay, so that when we do this shaping process, there will be some loss of the material, and that could not reduce the diameter of your crystal less than your required value. Okay, so it should not be less than the final required value. Okay, so that we have to keep in mind. Fine. So that's why we are saying that the generally oversized crystals are grown to allow the shapings. Okay, so that is the things that we have to remember. And now after doing that, okay, so after doing the grinding process, okay, to make it uniform, we need to cut the flats. Okay, we need to cut this flats. Fine. And even after that, we have to do a certain operations that will further reduce the diameter of this particular uh, ingot. Okay, so that we have to remember. So now we have to look at what is the necessity of this flat? Okay, that we have to see. So see, in the previous slide, we have seen when we make the flat region. Okay, if you see its cross-sectional view, okay, we can see the cross-sectional view. Then you must be able to see there is a flat. The flat will be something. It will look like this. Okay, when we see its cross-sectional view. Fine. So one flat region is over here. Fine. So now from the picture itself, you try to see something. Okay. So we have one flat like in this picture. Okay. In this picture, we have one flat at this point. Then again in this picture, we have another flat. Okay. A flat region. Then another flat in the same wafers you can see at this point. Okay. So you just remember, I am just showing you the cross-sectional view. Flats are actually made on the silicon single crystal. Okay, on the ingot we have to make, on the uniform ingot. Okay, so on that we have to make this flat region, this particular flat portion we have to make. Okay, by the grinding process. That will be done along the length of the ingot. Fine, but here I am just showing you the cross sectional view. Fine. So you can see we have one flat is here, another flat is here. Similarly, one more flat is here, okay, in the another wafer, okay. These are the different wafers, so it is not the same wafer. We are talking about the different wafers, fine. So here we have the flat, another flat is over here, okay. Similarly to in this particular picture, we have one flat is here and another flat is here. Fine. So now you can see the length of the flat is different. Okay, in the first only one flat was there. In the second one here you can see we have two flats. Okay. Similarly in the third and the fourth picture we have the two flats. But the difference between the flat is that this one flat is having the more width as compared to the other. Okay, in all the pictures you can see. Fine. And other difference is that the position of the flats. Okay, so position of the flat with respect to this primary flat. So basically the flat which is having more width, I will be calling it as a primary flat. Okay, we will be calling it as a primary flat. So with respect to the primary flat, the flat which is having less width, and this is called as the secondary flat. You can see that this flat, secondary flat with respect to primary flat is having a particular orientation. Okay, like in this case it is oriented from here, it is at 45-degree angle. Okay, it is oriented at this particular place. Similarly here this flat is actually oriented 180-degree outer face. Okay, it is placed at the 180-degree angle. Similarly, here you can see this flat is oriented at 90-degree. So from here, from this discussion only, you must be able to understand one thing, that as I have already explained, that while growing the crystal, because while manufacturing the ICs, generally what we need to have a certain type of P-type substrate or N-type substrate. And accordingly we perform the doping operation while growing the crystal. Okay, so and one more thing that I have already explained, that we need to have a certain orientation of our wafers. Okay, crystal planes, I have already explained this. Okay, so we need to have a certain orientation, and I explained while discussing the crystal planes and Miller indices that basically 111 crystal orientation and 100 is the more prominent one. Okay, so what we can have, we have the type of substrate, whether it is P type or N type, and what will be the orientation of the crystal. What will be the orientation of the crystal, or the what is the orientation of the wafer. So that is actually encoded in the form of these flats. Okay, that will be encoded in the form of this flat. So that will be actually this primary flat. Okay, this primary flat is basically it is used for, you can see here. Okay, so this particular primary flat, so what we do is, okay, when we make the like devices, okay, in that time what happens is we need to place this particular wafer onto a certain equipments or onto a particular machines, okay, because that will be done automatically. Okay, we need to have certain automatic devices because lots of processing we need to perform while making the circuits. Okay, so that time we need to place this particular wafer onto the machines. Okay, so that's why for that purpose, okay, this particular primary flag is actually used as a reference plane. Okay, they will be able to identify by seeing this particular flag. Okay, so that's why we are saying that it is actually acting as a reference plane for many equipment that handle the wafer during manufacturing process. Okay, so it is IC manufacturing process. When we perform any operations, because you can see if we don't have this flats region, okay, this circular shape is having a circular symmetry. Okay, we will not be able to understood how to hold it. Okay, we don't be able to see it. Okay, we are not able to understand how to hold this particular wafer and whether we have to perform the operation at this section or that section, okay, or some other section. Okay, so we will not be able to understood. Okay, that will be quite confusing. Fine. So that's why this particular flat will be acting as a reference plane. Okay, while we are placing this particular wafers onto a particular equipment. Okay, for IC manufacturing, right? So this will be using as a reference plane. Okay, and generally by convention, this particular flat is perpendicular to this particular direction. Okay, 110 direction. Okay, so it will be by convention be perpendicular to that. So this will be, you will find everywhere. Okay, this first primary flat you will be find everywhere. Okay, so you must be able to understood what is the functionality of the primary flat. Okay, now the basic use of the secondary flat is to identify what is the crystal orientation. Okay, what is the crystal orientation and what is the type of substrate it is, or it is what is the type of the wafer, whether it is p type or n type. Okay, so it is just like an coding. Okay, we are just doing a coding onto the wafer itself so that anybody after just seeing this flats, okay, they will be able to tell you whether it is a p type wafers and what will be the orientation of that wafer. Like in this case, you can see in the p type, it is crystal orientation is 111. Okay, so for specifically for this case, only one flat will be available. Okay, only one flat. So whenever you will see this wafers of having only one primary flat, you will be certainly you will be able to know that it is 111 crystal orientation p type wafers. Okay. Similarly, if you find another flat which is oriented 90-degree apart, okay, at this region, okay, then you will be able to understand it is a p type substrate. Okay, but the orientation is 100. Similarly, for the n type, you can see this position of the secondary flat is at 45-degree for 111 orientation, and for 100 orientation, it is having 180-degree placement. Okay, from with respect to your primary flat. So this way we will be able to identify our wafers. Okay, its types and its orientation. Fine. So this particular orientation is very important. Okay, so this way we can identify. You have to remember one thing, that these flats are generally made for those wafers which are having its diameter which is less than 200 mm. Okay, whenever it is greater than 200 mm, okay, we generally don't make the flats, but rather we are making a groove cutting. Okay, we have to make a groove cutting along the length of the ingot. So what we are saying, secondary flat is, and this is used to indicate the type and the crystal orientation of the wafers. And generally for wafers greater than 200 mm, no flats are cut. Okay, so this is actually done for wafers which is having its diameter less than 200 mm. Okay, so I have already explained that it is 150 mm or up to 150 mm. Means from 150 mm to 400 mm we are able to grow diameters nowadays. Okay, so whenever it is greater than 200 mm, we generally don't cut the flats, but rather what we do is we are making a small group along the length of the ingot. Okay, to identify the same thing. Fine. So now after having the shaping process, in the shaping process, what we have done so far, we have done the we have made the diameter of the ingot uniform, and then we have also made the flat regions to identify the orientation and type of the wafer. Okay, so now after the shaping process we have to move on to the sewing process. Okay, so in the sewing process what we have to do is we have to uh, cut the wafers. Okay, we have to cut the wafers from the ingot. Okay, and then we will be getting a circular disc like shape. Okay, so basically when we cut the wafers out of the ingot, okay, this slicing process is actually determining this three things. Okay, what are the three things? That is the surface orientation, its thickness, tapering, and the bow. These are the four parameters which will be decided by the sewing process. Okay, as I already explained that the way we cut the our ingot, okay, that is going to define decide the surface orientation. Okay, then obviously the thickness. Okay, what thickness we want to cut. Fine. Now there are two other parameters which is called as the tapering and the bow. Okay. Okay. So basically this taper means taper is the actually the measurement of variation of the thickness of your wafer from one end to another end. Let us say we have a circular wafer. If you move on from one particular end to the other end, okay, then if you move from one end to another end, then what will be the total variation of the thickness of the wafer? Okay, that we are calling as tapering. Okay, that tapering should be very small. If it is not small, then that will be creating a problem while manufacturing the devices. Okay, because we need a flat wafers. Okay, the flatness is utmost important. Fine, so it should be flat. If it is not flat, then it is going to harm your device. You cannot expect a very good quality of device that you are going to make after making the wafers. So the flatness is very important. Okay. Similarly, the bow is the another parameter. Okay, so bow is actually a parameter that will be defining you from the center. If we have the wafers, then it should be measured from the center. And when we go towards the edges of the wafers, okay, what curvature that that the surface of the wafer will take. Okay, what curvature? What is the curvature of that particular wafer that it is taking? Because it will be decided by the cutting tool. Okay, so whenever we cut the wafer, it will be actually cut by the diamond tipped blade. Okay, so when it is done by the diamond tipped blade, obviously it will be depending on the cutting tool's nature. Okay, and it will be depending on that, and then it will deciding what is the thickness, what is the tapering, and what is the bow, and that should be very small. Okay, because we need a flat wafers. So generally, as I explained that generally when we having a typical thickness of 200 mm of the diameter of the wafers, okay, the typical thickness that we want is 725 micrometer in their final finished form. Okay, you remember that. We need this particular thickness of the wafers, 725 micrometer in its final form. Okay, so as I have already explained in the first slide that we need to perform a lots of operation, like we have to go for the first we have already discussed about the shaping process, then the sewing process. Okay, then we have to further do a certain processing. Okay, so that processing is keep on we have to keep on losing the materials. Okay, so when we start losing the material, the thickness will automatically become small. So whenever we cut the wafers initially, we have to ensure that its thickness must be high. Okay, its thickness must be high so that the other operation can also be performed, so that we will be able to finally get this particular thickness. Okay, so that's why what we are doing is the thickness of the wafer after sawing it is about 850 micrometer we are taking. Okay, just to allow the other operations like the lapping, etching process or polishing process. Okay, so to allow these processes we need to cut the wafers whose thickness will be around like something 850 micrometer. So now one more very important thing that we have to remember is this particular picture I have just taken from the internet. Okay, and this is just for the representational purpose. Okay, this is not the actual picture. Okay, but one thing that I would like to mention over here is if we have any particular cutting tool, okay, any cutting tool like the diamond tipped cutting tool that we are going to use. So the cutting tool itself is having certain width. Okay, it is obviously it will have a certain width. Fine. So whenever we cut the material, okay, whenever we cut the ingot, okay, like in this case, you can see when we are cutting with this shape, okay, a certain material will be lost. Okay, this material is removed. Fine. So certain material is going to be lost. Similarly, here we have inserted this shape of cutting tool. Okay, so you can find that when it will be inserted, it will cut this particular material. Then when you remove this particular tool, you will find that the material in between this two layer will be removed. So what I want to explain from this picture is basically because the cutting tool is also having a certain thickness, okay, therefore there will be a certain loss of crystal material that will take place. Fine. So that will be take place. Okay, there will be a loss of material. So what we are saying is, typically the thickness, okay, the thickness of the sawing blade that we are going to use for cutting the wafers, okay, thickness of saw blade is about 400 micrometers. Okay, you can remember if it is having the thickness of 400 micrometer. Okay, so we can remember that whenever we cut the wafer, we are going to lose 400 micrometer thickness of your ingot. Okay, so that's why we are writing here the thickness of the saw blade is about 400 micrometer. So this thickness is lost in the form of silicon dust every time we cut the wafer. Fine, so we are going to lose it. So ultimately, when you cut the large number of wafers out of your ingot, only 50% of ingot can be converted into the wafer form. Okay, and the other 50% will be wasted in sewing process. That you have to remember. So entire ingot cannot be converted into the wafers. Okay, because of the thickness of your sewing blade. Fine. So after having this sewing process, okay, the next process that we need to follow is one thing you please remember, the operations that we are performing here is all the mechanical operations. Okay, in the first process, what we did is we have done the shaping operation and then followed by the sewing operation, and all these operations are even mechanical operations. So when we perform the mechanical operation, obviously the surface will not have, surface will lose its smoothness. Okay, it won't be having a smooth surface, and obviously there will be a lots of damages on the surface that you will find. Okay, so what we need a very smooth and very flat surfaces, and it should be damaged free. Okay, there should be no mechanical damage. Okay, if there is a damage, then if you make the ICs, then you won't find the right property of your devices. The property will have certain mysterious characteristics you won't be able to understand. Okay, so basically we need a flat surface, okay, without any damage. So basically to do that, what we have to follow the next step, which is called as the mechanical lapping and the round edging. Okay, that we have to follow. Okay, so in this process, again it will be done to the individual wafers. Okay, and what we have done is we have done the sewing process. So during the sewing process, I explained you that the tool will decide the tapering and the bow of your wafers. Okay, and that tapering means you know that it is the thickness variation of the wafers, and uh, the bow means its curvature of the surface. Okay, what curvature is it is actually following. Okay, it is measured from the center of your wafers. Okay, so basically it should not have any means tapering. Okay, the variation should be very small. Okay, there should be no variation ideally, but we cannot get it. Okay, we cannot get it. Okay, so it should have the very uniform means thickness. Okay, so basically to remove this particular error that actually arises due to your showing process, the bow and the tapering, that should be removed. Okay, so to remove these two things, okay, we have to perform this mechanical lapping operation. Okay, moreover, because we are performing the showing process, its edges is also going to be damaged. Okay, edges is going to be damaged. Also the edges is actually previously we have done the shaping operation. So within the shaping operation we have to do the grinding, and therefore the outer layer is also got damaged. Okay, so we have to remove bow and tapering, and also we have to remove the damages which is actually done during the shaping process. So that we have to do the round edging process. Okay, so in this case what we have to do is, in this case we have to apply the mixture of your aluminum oxide with water and the glycerin at a certain pressure we have to apply. Okay, so after applying this one, okay, it will be able to remove, a certain reaction will take place, and due to the pressure, okay, due to the pressure what will happen, this is going to remove the most of the tapering and the bow. Okay, by applying this particular mixture, okay, aluminum oxide, water and glycerin. So this is going to remove that one. Then finally we have to do the round edging uh, performance. Okay, we have to do the round edging so that its damaged surface can be removed. Fine, that have to be removed. Now after doing the mechanical lapping and the round edging, okay, most of the tapering and bow will be removed. But because everything is a mechanical process, okay, you can see it is again a mechanical lapping. Okay, so when it is a mechanical lapping, obviously this mechanical lapping cannot make the surface completely smooth. It is always be a problem. Fine. So to make it further flat, okay, to make it further flat, we need to go through a particular chemical processing. Okay, so we have to go through a particular chemical processing. So chemical etching will be done. Okay, as I already explained, what is the etching? Etching is the removal of the certain layers. Okay, a certain layer should be removed. Fine. Generally, if you do a particular chemical etching processing, then the top layers or the layers which are actually interacting with a particular chemical, that layers is going to be removed. Okay, so generally the top layers will be going to be, means the layers which is going to expose with the chemicals. Okay, that is going to be removed. So you can see in this picture, basically this is done as a batch processing. So what we do is we need to take the wafers, lots of wafers will be actually placed in a cassette. Okay, this is called as the cassettes. Okay, so within the cassette we have to place the large number of wafers, and then this wafers will be immersed into a chemical solution. Okay, so this chemical solution is already known what kind of chemical solution should be used so that a particular H rate can be obtained. Okay, so basically this particular equation is being followed. Okay, we have to use this nitric acid we have to use. Okay, and then we have to use the hydrofluoric acid. We have to use this particular combination of this particular chemicals, and then a reaction will take place. So after the reaction, certain products will be formed, and then this particular layer will be removed. Okay, a certain layer which is available on the top of the wafers or the side of the wafers, means the edges of the wafers, that is going to be removed due to this chemical etching process. Okay, so basically in this cases what happens is, due to this chemical etching processes, almost 20 to 25 micrometer silicon will be removed, both from the top layer and the bottom layer. You can see it will be interacting from all the sides. Okay, it is not just the one side, but it is from the all the sides it is going to be reacted, because this complete cassette will be immersed into this solution. So basically, this is the chemical etching processing that we need to follow. And what we do is to maintain the uniform etching rate. Okay, we need to keep on quickly stirring this particular chemical solution. Okay, if you hold it or if you keep it stable, then there may be a chances that at a certain portion the etching rate will be higher than the other, because it is a chemical reaction. Okay, so we have to keep on steering this particular solution so that we can get the uniform etching. Okay. Alternatively, it is known that if we are using the KOH or NOH based etchings, then the uniform etching can also be achieved. Fine. So this is our chemical etching processing. Okay, and this is generally used for the damages, actually to remove those surface layers that damages due to mechanical operations. Okay. So as I already explained that, because all these operations are mechanical operations. Okay, like your mechanical lapping, or it is sewing process, or it is shaping process. Okay, so it will be creating a certain mechanical damage to your wafers, and that should be removed. That will be removed by the chemical etching process. After doing this chemical etching processing, okay, we have to follow a last step, which is called as the chemical mechanical polishing. Okay, so in the chemical mechanical polishing, what we are doing is we actually having this type of system. Okay, in this system we are having a particular this particular table. Okay, a particular, on this platform we are having a polishing cloth. Okay, one cloth which will be an abrasive cloth. Okay, it is having abrasive characteristics. So we are having a polishing cloth, and on to that we have to place our wafer. Fine. And then we had a particular this type of system. Okay, and then it will be pressed. Fine, it will be pressed, and there will be a system through which we are going to drop a particular liquid. Okay, and this liquid is called as polishing slurry. Okay, this will be called as polishing slurry. So this liquid will be actually placed over here, and just in this picture it is shown like it is having just one wafer here, but it is again a multiple wafers will be placed on this particular platform. Okay, and then this platform will be keep on rotating. Again, this is keep on rotating. Okay, and due to this rotation and due to this slurry, okay, the slurry is going to be it will come under this particular surface, means it will be, because it is available on the polishing cloth. So this particular slurry will be come under this wafer. Okay, and then this particular layer is going to be polished. Okay, so what happens is, this particular slurry that we are calling it as a slurry, so slurry is actually having a it is consisting of a suspension of fine SiO2. Okay, SiO2 is your silicon dioxide. Okay, so we need to use a very fine particle of SiO2. Okay, it is consist of very fine particle. It is of size of 10 nanometers. Okay, and then it will be available with the aqueous solution of sodium hydroxide. And okay, so these two things will be used together, right, for making for doing the polishing. Fine. So actually this particular polishing will be done at this particular pressure, 20 psi. Okay, so this pressure will be exerted through this particular system, and then this particular slurry will be dropped down to this particular platform, and then this will be keep on rotated at particular pressure. Due to this pressure, okay, it is this particular slurry is got heated. Okay, because of the abrasion. Okay, you can understand it is abrasive layer. Okay, so when it is having abrasive layer, then this is going to get heated. Okay, when it is rotated, this platform is rotated. Okay, and it will be having a certain pressure of 20 psi. So this will be get heated, and then because of the heat, there will be a reaction that is going to take place. Fine. So due to this reaction, what happens is this rotation and pressure generate heat and drives the chemical reaction in which this hot means hydroxyl ion, you can see OH ion will be the radicals that will be formed, okay, from the NOH oxide. Okay, so basically this particular radicals is going to oxide means oxidize. Okay, sorry, it is written wrongly here. It is oxidizing the silicon. Okay, it will be oxidizing the silicon. So it is going to be oxidized. Okay, and because we have also placed this SiO2 particles. Okay, so what happens is first it is going to be oxidized. Okay, this wafer is going to be oxidized, and then this oxide layer will be removed by the fine particle of SiO2. Okay, so that's why we are calling it as a chemical as well as mechanical process. Okay, because we are having a chemical like NOH, and then we are also having a fine SiO2 particle. Okay, and that will remove the SiO2 layer. Okay, due to the abrasion. Okay, and that way the polishing is actually done. So after doing that, again 25 micrometer of the silicon will be removed. And then we are going to get the final thickness somewhere around 725 micrometer. So this will be your the final form of your uh, wafers that we are going to get, and it will be having a like mirror finished. You can say it is a mirror finished wafers. Okay, so thank you for the today, and we will be continuing the lecture in the next lecture. Okay, thank you.